She did not know it was the last warm evening until it was already gone. Nadia had been sitting on the step outside her door, the way she did every night after the dishes were washed and the children were in bed, holding a glass of tea that she had not yet drunk, watching the street. The neighborhood was ordinary. A man on a bicycle passed without looking up. A light went off in the window across the alley. She had sat on this step for 11 years, through grief and relief and boredom and love, and she had never once thought to be grateful for warmth. It had always simply been there, like her own heartbeat, unnoticed, uncounted, taken completely for granted. By midnight, the glass in her hand was cold. By morning, the world she had known was gone. Not with fire, not with war, not with any of the catastrophes her generation had been warned about. It came the way the most devastating things always come, quietly, without announcement, while people were sleeping. She woke to a silence so complete it had a sound of its own. A pressed, heavy stillness that she felt in her chest before she opened her eyes. The window above the bed was pale and white, and for one strange moment she thought it was simply a cloudy morning. Then she tried to breathe and the air inside the room cut through her like a blade. Her first thought was not survival. Her first thought was her children. This is what love does. It overrides every instinct except itself. She found them huddled together under every blanket in the house, still asleep, their breath rising in small white clouds above the pile of covers. She stood in the doorway and watched them breathe and did not move for a long moment. Outside, the street was unrecognizable. Everything was white and still. The trees had become glass. The rooftops had disappeared under a thickness of ice that glittered in the pale, distant light like something from a dream that had gone wrong. A neighbor's door was frozen shut. A car was buried to its windows. The cat she had seen the night before was nowhere. She understood then, without anyone explaining it, that this was not weather. This was the world itself, changed. The first days were about survival, and survival simplified everything. People forgot their quarrels. The man down the street who had not spoken to his brother in 4 years knocked on his door before sunrise and they let each other in without words. A woman who had always been considered proud and cold opened her home to 6 families and cooked everything she had without keeping count. In the face of absolute cold, people remembered they were made of warmth, and they turned toward each other the way flames lean together in wind. But survival is only generous at the beginning. By the end of the first week, the food began to run short. And when food runs short, something shifts in people, not all at once, not in every person, but in enough of them that you begin to feel it in the air, the way you feel a change in weather before it arrives. Small things first. A man counted his neighbor's portion. A woman stopped sharing her firewood. A council of men formed to decide who deserved what, and the way they said the word deserved told you everything about who they believed themselves to be. Nadia watched all of this from her corner. She had 2 children and half a bag of rice and a small iron stove that she fed with broken furniture, piece by piece. The leg of a chair. The drawer of a cabinet. Then the cabinet itself. She sat close to the stove and held her youngest against her chest and listened to the sounds of the building, footsteps above her, arguments behind walls, a child crying somewhere that was not her child, a crying she recognized because it was not about hunger or cold but about fear, the specific fear of a small person who has sensed that the adults are no longer certain. She thought about her mother then. Her mother, who had survived things she never fully explained, who used to say that the coldest thing in any winter was not the air but the moment a person decided another person's suffering was not their concern. Nadia had not understood this as a child. She understood it now. There was a man on the 3rd floor named Salim. He had managed, in those first chaotic days, to gather more than others, more food, more fuel, more blankets. No one was entirely sure how. He had the kind of confidence that in good times looked like capability and in hard times looked like something else. He began to trade. Not give, trade. A blanket for a watch. A can of food for a piece of jewelry. People handed over things that had taken them years to own, and he accepted everything without embarrassment, with the calm expression of a man who had long ago made his peace with taking. A very old man named Ibrahim watched this from the hallway. He had lived through enough to know that every difficult time produces a Salim, the same way every fire produces smoke. He did not confront the man. He did not have the strength. But he began to do something small and consistent. Every night, he moved quietly between the doors of the building, listening for the ones who had gone silent. Silence, he knew, was the most dangerous sound. The ones who stopped asking were the ones closest to giving up. He would knock softly, just once, and leave whatever he could spare outside the door, a piece of bread, a handful of something, sometimes nothing at all, just a knock to say, "I know you are there. You are not invisible." He never told anyone he was doing this. Nadia found out only because her youngest saw him one night through the crack of the door. She told her mother in the morning with wide eyes, as if she had seen something miraculous. And perhaps she had. Not because it solved anything. It did not solve anything. The cold did not lift. The food did not multiply. But something in Nadia shifted when she heard it, something loosened in her chest, the way a knot loosens not because it has been untied but because someone has simply touched it gently. She went upstairs that morning and knocked on old Ibrahim's door. He opened it slowly, suspicious the way old people become after years of disappointment. She held out to him the last of her tea, real tea, dried and kept for a moment of particular need. He looked at it for a long moment. Then he looked at her face. He took it with both hands. They sat together for an hour without speaking much. Outside, the ice held everything still and silent and white, the whole world paused in its long cold breath. Inside, there was a small stove, 2 cups, the sound of children in the next room, and 2 people who had decided, without announcing it, that as long as they were alive they would not practice cruelty. The cold was everywhere. But so was this. And in the end, what we are made of is not what the world gives us. It is what we give back into the world when the world has given us nothing at all.